We're joined by Canon Asset Managers Head of Private Clients, Ben Volkwyn. Ben, good evening. Thanks very much for your time. A lot of people may wonder why we are we're putting so much focus and attention on the meeting between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping.
Yeah, good evening, Vuyo, and good evening to your viewers. Vuyo, I think it is actually, at this point in time, it's absolutely expected that is where the focus will be going. Effectively, what we've seen is over the years, the G20 has become more and more important over time, with 2009 basically being such a critical point where the focus has totally been turned that your world leaders will always attend. Effectively, we're now at the point where we need to get this trade war sorted out. Globally, we've now seen Fitch ratings come out and said if these trade wars continue on, we'll see a dip of 0.4% in global GDP. And then IMF took it one step further and actually said 0.5%, which effectively is equivalent to the South African GDP.
Tell us how it actually affects us what happens when, the U.S.-China relations head to the rand and the effect that has on the day-to-day lives of ordinary South Africans?
Yeah, Vuyo, and I think that's a great question. I think so many times we're under the impression that we think we live in isolation. But the reality is that the world has become so globalized that effectively, once one country sneezes, the whole world catches a cold. And if we look at our GDP, so the South African GDP for the first quarter, where we saw a contraction of 3.2%, I think it quite highlights the position we're currently in, barring our own local situation. It's important to note that South Africa actually exports about 10% of all our exports to China. And effectively, as they become under pressure, and it's something that we've definitely seen on their part right now, we will too become under pressure. At the end of the day, if we look at these tariffs, we easily want to fall back in the idea that tariffs is just something that puts onto the companies and it just gets transferred. But the reality, it's the consumer that pays at the end of the day. These tariffs will be put on by the companies, and the companies will just then pass it on in terms of pricing.
Now, on the back of all of this, there is an expectation among South Africans that President Cyril Ramaphosa will also use his presence there to mobilize the foreign investor community to come and invest in our country. How realistic is that expectation given how our own economy, is performing? Who will take an interest in an economy that's growing at a negative 3.2%?
Yeah, Vuyo, and that to the point, I think globally we're currently seeing a really strong retraction. Globally, the economy is definitely detracting from where we've seen the performance before. And yeah, President Cyril Ramaphosa absolutely has his work cut out for him. To go and get global investors in this climate will definitely be a tough challenge. But if we think about the position that South Africa's economy currently is in, I think we'll have to take any investment we possibly can.
Those, of course, who will express an interest will no doubt want to know what happens to Eskom beyond this point. What else do you think the investor community would also be interested in to hear from him?
Yes, absolutely. And at the end of the day, at this point, I think investors are only concerned about returns. I think, and to that end, there is a benefit on our side. Globally, you'll be seeing negative yields, and effectively, South Africa and other emerging countries still offer positive yields. So I think there is opportunity to invest into South Africa. But we need to sort our own house out. And I think that's critical. I think investors are looking to see very, very strong leadership. And I think if they see that he's busy making stern decisions, and I think at the end of the day, we need to start moving away from just having commissions and talks and start seeing action in that regard.
But what do we have going? For us, what can Cyril Ramaphosa possibly sell to the foreign investor community?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's an old saying that at some point maybe has been a bit worn out. But South Africa still has the opportunity to be the most developed country in Africa. And that opportunity will still lead to that gateway into Africa. I think it's important to note that we are more than just an economy that's based off of commodities, and that we do offer the right type of insights in investing in global Africa. So I think at the end of the day, President Cyril Ramaphosa, absolutely, he's got his work cut out, but I do think he's got a product to sell. And something that we hear a lot in terms of the investment community is it's coming off of a low base. And I think that's where we are right now. We're coming off a low base, and there's opportunity to be had for those who are willing to just roll up their sleeves. There's definitely opportunity.
Ben Volkwyn, thanks very much for your time this evening. He is, of course, from Canon Asset Management.